by
Pirelli. Power is nothing without control. Pirelli tires.
BBS, from the racetrack to the road.
Last time it was Mid-Ohio was the scene of the third round of the Alms series, and fresh from their win at Le Mans, the #1 Audi of Biela and Pirot started from pole for the 2-hour 5-minute race. And it was that Audi that led for most of the race. There's smoke coming through. He gets out of the car now. The marshals use the extinguisher. There's some sort of electrical fire in that car. Can they do anything about Rodriguez and the Panos Mugen retired at the side of the track? A disaster for Johnny Herbert, ending up in the gravel trap at turn 11 and bringing out the safety car after a collision with the 42 Porsche. That meant it was a chance for pit stops, and the field played catch-up whilst the #1 Audi continued to lead. Meanwhile, Johnny Herbert was helped out of the gravel and made it back to the pit box, where there was frantic activity to get the champion Audi repaired and back on the track once again. Brabham and Magnussen had spent most of the race running in second place until dropping down to third. The #2 Audi had taken the lead and was on for the win until the LMP 900 began spluttering as it slowly ran out of fuel on the last lap, and Emanuele Pirot overtook it and headed straight for the checkered flag. But it was still to be an Audi 1-2 as Christensen managed to keep enough momentum to get the car up and over the line. But Christensen now heads the championship points table by 2 points from Johnny Herbert. Johnny Herbert is now tied with Capello for third, and Biela and Pirot also tied. Ron Fellows heads the GTS points on 85 from Johnny O'Connell, while Sasha Masson leads the GTs from Lucas Luhr. From Mid-Ohio, it's now on to Road America, and then it's onwards throughout the United States as this thundering series continues its tour of the country before slipping over the border into Canada for 2 rounds. Then it's back on the road again to finish the US circuits in Georgia. But for the 4th round of the series, ALMS travels to the spectacular Road America circuit close to Milwaukee. Lucas Luhr and Sasha Masson were disappointed, to say the least, to be punted off the track at the last round. But here at Road America, they were calm and collected and waited for the right opportunity in the qualifying session. And with 4 minutes of the session remaining, Luhr went out and put in a blistering lap to ensure pole position for the Porsche for the GT class.
I had a really perfect lap. I mean, I pushed everything into it. And from the Michelin guy, I mean, I'm really pleased with him. He gave us really the right tire. And that makes it looks easy, but it wasn't easy.
The awesome Chevrolet Corvette of Ron Fellows and Johnny O'Connell had had a few problems at the start of the race weekend, but luckily they were to be short-lived ones. And very quickly they were back on the pace again and on the GTS class pole for the 4th time in as many races.
We had a bit of an initial problem with our gearbox. We lost some time, and our engineers threw a bunch of stuff at it. You know, very calculated, and that was really nice. That was a very nice car to drive.
Johnny Herbert, for the second time this season, is partnered in the champion Audi by Stefan Johansson. Almost halfway through the Alms session, Johansson ended up in the wall at turn 5 and suffering rear-end damage. The pairing will now start from 6th place on the grid. It was a race of patience for John Field last time, suffering from alternator problems at Mid-Ohio, and much to their disappointment, those problems had followed the team here, and they spent most of the time down on power. Despite that, though, they managed to take pole for the 675 class.
The car didn't show what it could do because the engine was missing the whole time. And I only got like 3 or 4, I mean maybe 3 good laps. And it was sputtering, you know, on the straightaways and stuff. And so we gave away some time with the engine.
Brian Herter and Bill Auberlane in the 51 panels qualified for the last place on second row of the starting grid. The panels still struggles against the mighty Audis. Development parts and aerodynamic revisions have helped them to keep up, but not surpass at all the might of the German Mark. And it's the same problem for David Brabham and Jan Magnussen in the 50 panels. They have, though, a win and a 3rd place to their credit this year, and here they hope that the race distance could be to their advantage.
It's 500 miles, anything can happen. If you go have a small problem in the beginning of the race, you'll spend the rest of the race trying to catch up. So if something like that should happen to our Audi, then we'll stand a good chance. But unless it looks like they're just going to go away in the distance, and we're going to have to do our own race.
It was traffic that was the downfall of the number 1 Audi. Emanuele Pirro unable to get clear runs to get in the quick laps, but it would still mean a front row start for them. And Tom Christensen had been slightly disrupted by incidents too in the session, but managed to get in some good times to take pole, and he was certainly enjoying the circuit.
Of course, it's everybody's first time. We keep improving a little bit. The car is fantastic, we know that. On this circuit, we really need to find the right compromise in setup, and the engineers mechanic did a great job, and it was really nailing out there in this long carousel. I was very quick through there. I had to go up to 5th gear all the way on the entry, and it's the 4th gear corner, so as you can imagine how well the car was there. And I promised Dindo to go through the kink flat, but now I came out of the carousel so quick that I lifted again, so I'm sure he's still going to call me.
Race day and a warm-up in the morning for the drivers and mechanics to hone the machines for race setup. It's a 12:30 start for a 500-mile race that will take approximately 4 hours, but there is a time limit of 4 hours and 15 minutes. Conditions are hot and sunny, pretty much perfect, and it's also Tom Christensen's 35th birthday. So then this is how the grid finished up after all the classes had qualified and they'd been combined. And it is going to be an interesting race here with everybody visiting here for the first time in this Le Mans series. The 3 drivers do have some course knowledge here, but that's going to be to their advantage. But qualifying, as always, means grid positions. Grid positions, as always, is so important. And Audi are out to take their 18th win of the Le Mans series here. It could also be the 11th time that they take a 1-2 finish. That's the plan, but there's a long way to go until the checkered flag, and as experience has shown, anything can happen at any time. It will be a rolling start, as is the custom. The field getting the green flag on the back straight. The timing begins as they cross the start line, and the track is currently at 105 degrees. 4 miles per lap, 500 miles on this circuit, 12 turns. The green flag is shown. They have to hold formation now until they go through the start line, and they've done that now, and that looked like Jan Magnussen very keen on the inside line, and Magnussen's gone wide and he's spun it off the grass. Can he stay out of the barriers? He does, but look at the amount of time that Jan Magnussen has lost. We're on board with him now, and he's got a heck of a lot of work to do. He's down in something like 11th place at the moment. Not good news at all. Into the race though, and it's well and truly on 500 miles, just under that now Christensen leads Pirro. Number 51 in the Panos, LMP 01, Bill Auberlain. And then Johnny Herbert in the champion Audi is in third place. Christensen, Pirro through. Then that's Bill Auberlain. Johnny Herbert right behind in the other round. He's closing very quickly, looking for a way past. Tried to go on the inside, but just caught on the grass. The dust came up, the tyres got dirty, and he had to back off. But he's just waiting now. He's desperately trying to get past that Panos of Auberlain. Working hard at the steering wheel. He doesn't want to see those two Audis ahead of him disappear too much further, but they already have gone off into the distance, no doubt about it. The Panos is holding up that champion Audi of Johnny Herbert. Partnered here by Stefan Johansson, who joined him at the last round. The new partnership for that champion Audi. There's the race leaders go through, and then third and fourth place men as we have them on the track at the moment. And Herbert really will be keen to find a way through. Difficult through this part of the circuit, very twisty. Everybody is absolutely enamored with this circuit. Johnny Herbert said it's like the circuits used to be in Europe. It's a little bit like Spa, and you can't find these circuits anywhere in the world now except America. And everybody is thoroughly enjoying it. It's vast. There are thousands and thousands of spectators here, but there's so much space that you can't really see them. Number 2 Audi then leads the race from the number 1 Audi. Close as always, in formation as we've seen them so many times. And Christensen doing the opening stint, his 35th birthday here today. And just coming on the bridge now is the Panos with Johnny Herbert behind them. There, as we close in now, the 51 Panos, and Herbert seems to have backed off a little bit. So whether he's erring with caution a little bit, maybe his tyres were upset when he ran off before. There we are, that's third and fourth place men. Well, 2 LMP classes, the 900s and the 675s. These are the thoroughbred racing machines. They have to be a minimum of 900 kilos. That's just under 2,000 pounds. Top speed just in excess of 200 miles an hour. The 675s will be slightly slower than that, at about 180 on board with second place man Emanuele Pirro. Still staying close to the back of the number 2 Audi. The one thing we're not sure about is team orders this weekend. So far, no signs of it. Still a long way to go, though. First chance for a possible lead, if these two don't race themselves on the track, will be the pit stops. And that will depend really on full course cautions, whether somebody goes off and brings out the double yellow flags. And Johnny Herbert seems to be having another go at the Panos again. Got very close to them this time, but the Panos just moved over and just blocked the way for Johnny Herbert. Quite a steep rise up that hill. This is through the pit lane. It's an uphill run. You don't actually see turn 1 until you get there. And they're heading up towards that now. Herbert moves in front and takes third position. And now we should see him leave the Panos. Down a couple of gears for that corner. Then it's very quickly on the power. And then it's a downhill drop. So they head towards turn 3. And Herbert now just pulling away a little bit in third place. And this is the Celine. The Celine is doing ever so well this weekend. It's like a rocket ship, and unbelievably it's leading the Corvettes. And off goes the 45 Viper. So the Viper's in trouble already, but the Celine leading the GTS class. But now it's about to change as number 3 goes through to take the lead from him. So Ron Fellows takes the lead. Through goes Andy Pilgrim. And the Celine is slowing very quickly indeed and is pulling off the racetrack. A problem for the Celine, but it was flying around the course. It passed the Corvettes earlier, and now the same thing has happened to them. Now here is Jan Magnussen in the number 50 Panos, who's now made it up to 5th place. So he's getting the wave manoeuvre or the wave signal from his teammate Bill Auberlain, but either Magnussen didn't see that or chose not to pass there. But he's about to take 4th place. and very easily too, and that is great team respect as the number 51 Panos pushes by the number 50 car, and now Jan Magnussen is up to 4th position, so the recovery is on its way, but still a lot of time he's lost. So that's made life a little bit more difficult for the Panos team. The Panos 50 car and 51, well, they've been working really, really hard to try and close the gap on the Audis. There's the 3 Corvette of Ron Fellows, and as usual, close behind, number 4, Andy Pilgrim in the number 4 car. What's going to be a pretty interesting battle with the Celine, but looks like that's over now, unless they can get the Celine back to the pits and get it back out in the race again. But it's out of contention really for the GTS class lead. 89 Porsche comes through, 3 and 4. Ron Fellows leading that battle though. Into the pits comes number 11. And is this a problem? Well, it's reported that a fire was in the car. A couple of corners actually reported seeing smoke, so they've come in as a precaution, and that was the 675 leader. And look at this now, a battle on between the 2 Audis, and there's going to be a lead change, no doubt about it. Number 1 working very, very hard indeed to get past 2, and I think Emanuele Pirro, yes he does, takes the lead from Tom Christensen. Well, he caught him very quickly and just pushed his way through there. And these 2 guys are really racing each other. It doesn't look like there's any team orders in practice at the moment. So, lead change then. Tom Christensen down to 2nd place. Emanuele Pirro in the red and silver number 1 Audi takes the lead as they go through to pass one of the GT cars. Well, that was number 79 that they've just lapped now, and you can see the speed difference between the prototypes and the GTs. The GTs, production-based cars, all tend to be Porsches, only slightly modified. And the Ferrari 360s and the Callaways also involved in that top speed. You'd expect about 170 miles an hour, so about 30, maybe 40 miles an hour difference between the LMP 900s and the GTs. And that will not be the last time that they lap them at all. So, Emanuele Pirro now starting to try and pull away from Christensen, but it's a long, long race, and things can change very, very easily. Great traction. The tyres here working very well in the heat, which is a little bit of change from normal, but they're all finding this circuit very good. It's not too abrasive, so tyre wear shouldn't be a problem, but long laps and a long, long way to go. Maximum of 4 hours and 15 minutes. Beautiful circuit. Very, very good for the drivers to ride and enjoying it. As we've said, all the comments have been very positive and interesting as well, with it being the first time the championship has come here. They've had nothing really to base experience on. A lot of traffic now though for the 1st and 2nd men. Pick their way through. That's one of the 675s as well that tries to get out of the way of the Porsches. And always difficult times because you have to keep an eye on the other people, and they're not necessarily looking for the faster men coming through. Caught sight of number 18 there, who's leading the race leader at the moment, or ahead of the race leader on the road, about to be lapped. And that's Didier Rodriguez and John Graham's car, the MBD sports car. That's a Panos LMP07 with a Mugen Honda. And into the pits comes Bill Oberlane, and there's a fire in that car. There's definitely smoke coming out the back. He's pointing to the side. There's smoke coming through. He gets out of the car now. The marshals use the extinguishers, and there's some sort of electrical fire in that car. Can they do anything about it? Well, here's the battle for the GT class. 22, Jörg Bergmeister has just been passed by Lucas Law. Number 23, teammates. We see them together all the time. and they've been swapping positions on most laps of this race so far, but now it is 23 Lucas Law that leads, partnered by Sasha Masson. Some lightning laps in qualifying, circulating together. It was the 31 car that led the class earlier on, but he ended up with running off the track. So these two now running first and second in the GT class. On board with Jan Magnussen in the number 50 Panos. He's now heading into the pit lane, and it's going to be fuel and then tyres, and he gets ready to get out. So out he goes, and into the gravel trap goes the Viper of number 44, Mark Bunting. So that is going to be, is that going to be a full course caution? Can they get him out from there? And it is indeed. We're on board now with Johnny Herbert, third place in the number 38, excuse me, champion Audi, and they all now have to hold position. And the rescue team about to pull the Viper out of the gravel trap. And will we see people pitting now, taking advance of this caution? It'll take them a few more minutes to get out of the car out the gravel trap, and in the pits are the two race leaders then, Emmanuel Yapiro and Tom Christensen. Tom Christensen gets out, Dindo Capello is going to get in, and Frank Bieler is going to get into the number 1 Audi. Well, he's waving his hand, he's not happy about something, and this is very close indeed, and Capello's going to get out to take the lead. Well, there was a bit of a delay in the number 1 pit, and there is the yellow and silver Audi that's going to make it out onto the track first. And also, the two GT cars that were fighting for first and second have now switched, because Jörg Bergmeister is going to take the number 22 car out on the track ahead of Sasha Masson. And Dindo Capello in the number 1 Audi is down to second place now. And the last thing he wants is these two Porsches ahead of him either. Well, he's just slotted in ahead of number 23. He's got to pass the number 22 Porsche. And that's going to be difficult time. But remember, they are still under caution. The yellow flag's still at the side there, and that will allow them to close up a little bit, but they have to hold station. They can't move positions until they've gone through the green flag and the caution has been removed. So Dindo Capello, number 2, leads from Frank Bieler, and it's Stefan Johansson now that's changed after the pit stops and is currently in 3rd place. So it's going to be a procession now for some time until they get the all go. There's the distinctive Corvette going through. We haven't seen any signs of the Celine. Well, there is Capello amongst the Porsches. Bieler with 1 car between him and Dindo Capello. Can't do anything about it at the moment. There's the green flag then, so they'll be away this time. The number 11 car is about to be harangued very quickly by some flying Audis. There's the Brabham as well. David Brabham is in that car in the Paylons. And he will be lapped very quickly indeed, I think, once the Audis get up behind him. But it's going to be a very close race now. On board in 2nd place, the Audi R8 of Frank Bieler, and ahead, or teammate you could say, but race leader at the moment. You can just make out the yellow engine cowling on the back there. Closes up under braking. Couple of slower people ahead of the race leader, but he should be past them very quickly. Just has a look now, but just has to keep that racing line in time for this tight, fairly tight left-hand turn. Back up through the gears again. See the lights on the dashboard indicate when it's close to gear changing time. And traffic really holding these two up now, and it's allowed Bieler to get right on the back of the number 2 Audi. And that's not what the race leader wants at all. Wants as much air between him and 2nd place man as possible. That's David Brabham actually in the Paynolds, I think, that's holding them up. And Mel Hawkins in the MG Lola in the 675 class, and there's quite a power difference between the two classes, but the weight ratio And the fuel loads as well, the 675s use a lot less fuel, so it had to make them more competitive, especially over something like the 4 hours or so distance we've got here, just kicking up a little bit of dust off, and this has become all very close indeed. And number 2 moves out to pass David Brabham, who waves Dindo Capello past, very sportsmanlike. Oh, and there's a spin here as well. That's number 42, Tony Kester. Also been involved is number 17, Milcaduno, in the Mugen Panos. But that's a puncture for the Porsche driver, so he'll have to make his way down to the pits. There's number 18, Didier Rodriguez, and John Graham car, another of the Mugen Panos. And that is the stricken Porsche that has quite a long way to go around now to repair that rear right-hand side tyre. But going to be pretty much shredded by the time it gets back to the pits. Maybe a bit of bodywork will have been disintegrated as well from flailing tyres. And in the gravel is number 31, Johnny Molem's Porsche is in the gravel. Was leading the GT class earlier on, so we're in a full course yellow situation now, and into the pits. They have to slow down there just by the cones and drop the speed off dramatically, and it's now going to be a race to get in and out for the number 1 and number 2 Porsche. Number 1 just goes into his pits and he's overshot a little bit and has to come back, and that has to be good news for number 2 Dindo Capello. Well, the fuel's going in. Meanwhile, number 31's been pulled out of the gravel. He's free to go on his way. No doubt he'll be heading to the pits for new tyres and a bit of a clean-up. But what's happening in pit lane? Well, the marshal's working out on the course, cleaning up the gravel and the debris. A lot of care, a lot of concern goes into this racing. And that's a replay of Molen getting it wrong, and I think he was nudged there. That was one of the Porsches, the Alex Yerb Porsches, I think, that's been involved in that. But out of pits, back on the track, and it is Dindo Capello that still leads from Frank Wieler. And back behind them is the Panos now. There's the GTS cars, number 4, unusually leading the class this time. Not the way around that we're used to seeing it. And now we're in green flag, we're away again, and number 2 passes a little bit of traffic and puts a few cars between him and number 1, Frank Wieler. But Wieler looks like he's going to pass them now as they head into turn 1. And then this quite steep downhill. Somebody's gone wide at the top, and I think that's one of the Vipers that's gone off and gone back on again. There he is, just coming into the centre of the picture now. So a lot of dust and debris, and into the pits for number 3. And there's a problem, and it's the net that holds the driver in if he goes off course. Has actually come down from the top, and it's quite a steel mesh net, and was up against the driver, making it very difficult. So they've got to repair that now, and that is just time ticking away every moment that passes, and that is not at all what they needed at all. So number 3 has lost even more ground. Oliver Gavin back out on the track again. Stefan Johansson, now he's been in the pits and has been passed by the Audis 1 and 2. Did take the lead before, and into the pits comes Dindo Capello, and it's a stop and go penalty for Capello. He's been given a penalty for passing before the green flag was displayed. Well, he was quick off the mark. It was hard to tell from the camera angle, but he's had to come in now for a stop and go, and that's disaster. So he loses the lead now, and is he going to make it back into 2nd or 3rd place is the question. We look now for Johansson, and there's Johansson coming over the top, and Capello comes out now, but Johansson's got the speed and goes through to take 2nd place. So from 1st to 3rd, because of that stop and go penalty, he'll be absolutely distraught about that. Well, I'm sure he knows whether he did it or not. These things do happen. It's very difficult sometimes. The drivers aren't given much opportunity. I'm not defending him if he did do it wrong at all, but now he's got a lot of work on his hands, and he's got that customer Audi ahead of him. It's not quite as refined as the works cars, but Stefan Johansson might provide a bit more of easy pickings than maybe Johnny Herbert would have been, as Johansson goes by and passes number 11, Mel Hawkins, in the MG Lola. Johnny Herbert really knows this car well. Stefan Johansson still a little bit ragged, still having to get used to it. But currently in second place, so he really has to be careful now. No signs at the moment of him catching the race leader in the number 1, the red and silver Audi of Frank Bieler, who's now gone through to take the lead. Good view of this impressive circuit as we ride on board with Johansson. A little bit of break up there where the microwave can't pick up the signals from the car through the trees. Feeds the power back on now. Up through the gear, underneath the bridge. Takes that flat. Down through the gears, down 2 gears, into this sharp, quite tight right-hander. Then this run up alongside the pit lane, up to the hill, and into this blind turn 1, which you don't actually see until you're there. Long run up to this first turn. There it is now. It's on you before you realise. And then up through the gears again. And that's David Brabham going very slowly indeed in the 50 Paynolds, on board with him. And the body language, and you can see the car slowing down. And is he going to run off the circuit? He does. He pulls off the circuit, and I think that's at turn 5. So Brabham has got a problem. What a disappointment for the Paynolds team. Still in second place, though, Stefan Johansson, partnered by Johnny Herbert in the 38 champion Audi. And there is the number 2 Audi in third place. Slowly chipping away, slowly trying to catch. But Johansson now will be driving as quickly as he can. And Brabham, well, he's got back on the circuit again, but very slowly indeed. And, oh, passed. That's a very dangerous place to be on. Passed by Johansson and Capello there, but he's just, it's as if he's trying to just teeter the car onto the drop down of the hill. But desperately trying to get that back. And in the gravel trap is one of the Audis, and that's Stefan Johansson. Johansson's gone off into the gravel. He's thrown away that second place that he had. Talking to the team, no doubt, and trying to boot that car out of the gravel. That really has blown it for the champion Audi. They were in second place. That's at turn 8. He's gone off, and just keeping it onto the track is Dindo Capello. And Capello has been black flagged now. He's got another stop and go penalty. Information coming through that he passed the number 34 car under the yellow, dives into the pit lane now. So he inherited that second place when Johansson went off, and now he's into the pits for this second stop and go. And you can see him shaking his head. He's not happy at all. About to pass his team. And, well, body language says it all. He doesn't believe that that penalty is just. He has to take it. And the argument is going to be afterwards. So that's disaster for him. Any chance of catching the number 1 car has pretty much gone. So in for the second time, he will stop and go again and gets away cleanly. And that's the number 18 car of De Rigas that goes through. The green Audi, sorry, the green Ferrari 550 Maranello there. The olive green team's car goes through, but back out again and has to get back up to pace. A long way behind the leader now. And distraught would be the word. 38, Stefan Johansson, now out of the gravel. He's free to go on his way. So, depending on the condition of the car, depends, of course, whether he will make it into the pits for a tyre change or whatever. Out and back onto the track. Gravel spews out the back of that car. But off he goes, and the team won't be very happy about that at all. So, quite a few exciting things going on. This is number 56. This is the Phil Beam MP84 Nissan. That's Chris McMurray that's on board that at the moment. Having a fairly good race here. It's going pretty well. And behind him, the man that's second in the GT class, Timo Bernhard, in the Porsche 911 GT3 RS. looking for a way past if he can, but not going to be easy because they've got a little bit more acceleration coming out the corners, a little bit lighter. And see what's going to happen over time there. A lot of traffic ahead of those. Oh, that was one of the 675s, I think, sliding furiously through that turn. It could have been the number 30 car, actually, which Clint Field's driving in today. Some very fast times in last round out when he was partnering his father. And yes, that does look like the number 30 car, and that's one of the 900s. And there's more drama in this race. We're on board with Frank Bieler now, heading into the pits. The team's telemetry have told them that he has a puncture. It hasn't become an apparent puncture yet, but one of the tyres is losing pressure, so he's had to come into the pits. So after taking the lead, he now possibly could lose it. We have to wait and see where Dindo Capello is on the track, but it's going to be pretty close. And fuel going in. They can't touch the tyres. Nobody else can touch the car. He shakes his head. You feel for the man, really. Shakes it. Oh, and he's just gone into second place. You saw the lights there. There's two lights on the outside. That changed, and that changed as the number 2 car went through, and now he's got a problem. Oh, no, I thought he was a bit panicky in there for a moment, but must have been just saying, well, yeah, there's a definite problem. He can't get the car started. Well, they've changed the tyres, the fuel's gone in. He's down to second place. They can't get the car started. One of the mechanics was ready to pull off the engine house in there, and the car will not go. Now it does. Now he's out, but he's out into second place. Can he get out? We don't know exactly where Johansson is at the moment. Can he get out in second place, or is he going to lose it? Well, makes his way out. Has to obey the speed restrictions. And there's the race leader then. So what an incredible stroke of luck for Dindo Capello. 2 stop and goes on the run, and lost the lead after the second one, and now takes the lead back from his teammate, and quite convincingly as well. So there we go. Number 2 out on the circuit and leading. There's going to be quite a chase on now with the Audis. And here's a whole bunch of cars, a whole gaggle of GT cars. There's the red Ferrari that's making its debut here at this circuit this weekend. The Phil Beams involved in that as well. All fighting it out for position, of course. And that 550 Maranello, number 34 Baterio, and Santon in the GT class. There's our race leader. And Bucknam we saw in the Phil Beam. The Phil Beam Nissan is the 675 leader at the moment in the pits though. And Jörg Bergmeister gets into the car that Timo Bernhard has got out of. Tyres going on. They've already fueled and they'll be back out again. And Dindo Capello leads now by 15 seconds to Frank Bieler. Johnny Herbert back in the champion Audi, number 38 now, is in 3rd position. But it's all changed again into the pits now. This is Joe Field. Fuel going in, and Clint Field is standing by to take over. Mechanics not going to change the tyres. Obviously happy enough with them. A lot of fuel going in there. Driver just gets strapped in. So while they're doing that, we join our, well, probably the luckiest man on the track, I think. I have to say, Dindo Capello, who still leads this race. And at the moment, it's back in the hands of the number 2 Audi. A little bit of traffic to take on, gets waved through. And that's Clint Field, who we were just watching getting in the car before. He waves through the race leader. Blue flags, of course, are out of the corners that let the drivers know that they have a faster car behind them and they should move over. That was not needed at all. There's the blue flag, he just caught in the distance on the left-hand side. And one of the Vipers, John Lloyd Jr., who's something like 23rd overall at the moment, gets passed by number 2. So it is number 2 that leads. Frank Bieler, partnered by Tom Christensen in the Audi R8. Fellow has had a win this year. Christensen hasn't won since Sears Point last year. Well, it's just too early to predict whether they're actually going to see that checkered flag first. As we've seen in this race, there's just been so many things that have turned up and changed the lead. But 2 stop and goes and to lead the race still is quite incredible. But of course, it was helped by that problem for Frank Bieler with that puncture, and it just goes to show how incredible technology is these days, that they have the telemetry to tell them that something is wrong with the car, that they detected the tyre pressure going down and they were able to act on it before it became a major problem and he was beached out on the circuit somewhere. Race leader just getting balked a little bit by one of the Porsches, who sees him and moves over, and there is number 2, Frank Bieler, still playing catch-up, still quite a way behind the race leader, and just needs a little bit of clear track. He's got the speed, got the momentum, can make easy pickings of the cars in front of him, but just needs to be able to clear them nicely without any problems, to try and do his best to close up on the back of the number 2 car that's currently leading the race. And I think that's number 18 that he's about to pass now, and that's one of the other 900s, but it's the Panos Mugen of Didier Rodriguez, who's just been passed now. So Frank Bieler has lapped another car on this circuit in what is going to be a time maximum. As we look at Barry Devlin, who's now the 675 leader in the Lola Millington, but it was to be a maximum of 4 hours 15 minutes or 400 miles, but it's been deemed that it will go to 4 hours and 15 minutes. They won't reach the full race distance. So Barry Devlin in the Lola Millington, one of the 675 class, smaller, less powerful prototypes, but certainly the right type of races for them. Just that little bit slower, around about 20, 25 miles an hour, maybe 30 miles an hour off the top speed for a full flight 675. And because they use less fuel, they therefore have to make less pit stops. Depending on, of course, on the tyres, but they're slightly easier on the tyres. And these 4 classes in the Le Mans racing just makes it so much more exciting. There's so much more going on. You've got the 900s, the 675s, the GTSs, which are fractionally quicker than the 675s, or can be. And then, of course, you've got the GTs as well. And such an array of cars and the different categories really makes for exciting racing. And it's the GTS leader, number 4, Kelly Collins. And in the Corvette, we're so accustomed to seeing the number 3, but it's not going to be that today. It's the number 4 that's going to take the win. And they'll be pleased about that at all. Ron Fellows just having a little bit of bad luck today, and of course when Oliver Gavin was in the car they had to call back in because the safety net at the side had come loose. And that's to keep them inside the car if they have a crash. The windows are always down, of course. And Ron Fellows was saying at round 2 when it poured with rain, it's definitely the best kind of car to have in the rain because you don't get wet. But when the sun is shining and it's as hot as it is here today, then cooling is a bit of a problem, although the mechanics have managed to get a lot of air into that Corvette. They sound wonderful when you're there at the racetrack and always carry a lot of interest. So this is Jörg Bergmeister, number 22, and Lucas Lohr, who was still fighting it out for the GT lead. We're on board now with Lucas Lohr, number 23. And the lead has in fact just changed hands again here, as it has been all day on and off between these two. Little snake from the back of the Porsche as he puts the power down. But now Jörg Bergmeister starting to pull away a little bit. So So these two just moving apart a little bit, and Jörg Bergmeister's just starting to put a little bit of ground between him and Lucas Law, but then Lucas Law might just fight back. We haven't seen the end of this battle, and here's the replay. This was the passing manoeuvre as they come up and over the top alongside the pit lane before they go down into turn one. Here they are still, and the situation pretty much the same then. And will that be the result of the GT class? Well, we haven't got that long to go now before we find out about that, because we're heading up to the start of the last lap for the race leader. All these other cars quite a few laps behind, but the race finishes when the overall leader takes the checkered flag, and that is going to be very soon indeed. And there's the race leader now, who passes number 23, and he's on his way to catching Jörg Bergmeister, and we'll be passing him very soon indeed. There he goes, no problems at all, and goes through this lovely part of the track. Nice sweeping curves, very fast. Got to be careful, a bit slippery as well. Have to keep on the racing line. A lot of debris and marbles from the tyres as well on the offline part of the track rather. And up he goes up this uphill bit, and he'll get the white flag when he comes the other side. There it is now, so he's on his last lap. He's got 4 miles to go from now, and nowhere in sight is the number 1 Audi. Well, we saw the last round where he was on the last lap and ran out of fuel. I'm sure the team will have made sure that that's not possible at all. The Audi is on its way to a victory, and this will be a great birthday present for Tom Christensen. It's his birthday today. There's the number 3 Corvette, the GTS leader, and I think he'll be lapped once more before the end of this race. And it just shows you, when you study each class, how quick they seem to be against each other, then how the other classes can just be so much quicker. Look how low that Audi is to the ground. The aerodynamics just superb. They have a big development team who work on these cars. Now we'll pass the Corvette, and is very soon going to be on the last part of the circuit. So just a couple of miles to go now. Lovely part of the circuit as well. Very fast, tight right-hander there. Everything's going well. Back through this wooded area once more. Not many spectators through this part of the circuit. And about 3 turns to go now. Very soon we'll be coming up to this final part of the turns. That's one. This is the last turn then. Last turn, and then on his way up the hill, the checkered flag will be poised and ready. And up he goes for the final time here at Road America, the debut race for the series on this track. It's going to be a popular one, and what a way to christen it, with a win for the number 2 Audi. I'm absolutely delighted, and against the odds has taken the win here. And Tom Christensen stands on the pit wall, takes the congratulations of the team. They're all very close. And a little bit of showmanship now. And if nothing else, it certainly proves how happy he is. I'm not sure the mechanics will be too pleased about the extra load on the engine. But why not? And a bit of extra rubber now on the surface here at Road America. That one of the year for Dindo Capello, but Christensen's first since last year then. Frank Bieler, Manuele Pirro takes second place, with Herbert and Johansson third. Kelly Collins and partners take the GTS win, while Bergmeister and Bernhard the GT class, and the 675 class winners were Devlin, Alberto and McLeod. Christensen leads the championship then by 2 points from Capello. John Field leads the 675 class. Ron Fellows, the GTS class, by 4 points from O'Connell. Then Sasha Masson, the GT class, by 1 point.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much, Dindo.
What a present, huh?
Yeah, it was great. The donuts was a present. The victory is not a present, that's hard work.
Tom.
Finally overdue, huh?
Washington makes its debut for the next round of the American Le Mans Series, and that could provide another spectacular sports car racing feast.
Here we go.
The American